If belief gives a thing life, then what happens when the believer no longer knows which world they're feeding? He'd been an only child for 9 years. It wasn't something he ever said out loud. Certainly not now. But he'd liked it that way. Then Ben came along, soft-voiced, allergic to everything, a source of endless concern. His parents' orbit shifted, tilted towards this new, fragile son. At first, it was small things. Whispered conversations in the hallway. Missed trips to his favourite station for him with his dad. The smell of hospitals clinging to his mum's jumper. Later, it was wheelchairs and infusion drips. School missed for his younger brother altogether. And a deepening silence in the house. Now, Ben was home again. But not because he was better. The language had changed. Comfort care. Quality of life. Machines had moved into his old, larger bedroom. Plastic tubes where picture books used to be. And he, the older boy, now relegated to the smaller of the two boys' bedrooms. So when the boy found the path that spring, narrow, half swallowed by brambles and nettles, it felt like something given, not found. It wound down the slope behind the estate, past the rusted fence and an abandoned allotment shed, until it reached a half-rusty single track of rails, a half-abandoned rail line, one that should have held little promise given his passion for trains. It was barely used, officially. 2 trains a week, his dad once said, maintenance or freight. But that day, something came rumbling through the mist that didn't belong to the timetable. Black engine, brass fixtures, coal, smoke, urgency. He stood rooted to the spot as it thundered past, its windows blared by its speed. Then one old train followed another. No one else was there. No one ever was. Mesmerising. Out of time. A gift. Naturally, he started going back. Again and again. At home the air was heavy with dread, but there at the line was wonder, excitement. Miracles in the seemingly endless succession of trains. Trains that hadn't passed there in 50, 60, 70 years and more. Each visit revealed a different collection of trains, as if time was playing a lottery of riches. Some days they were green and gold, with wood-panelled carriages and old company logos. Other times they'd consist of carriages of red and cream and maroon. There was no pattern, at least not one that he could see. It was like flicking through an atlas of time. The rails held eras that didn't touch one another except here. And occasionally, there were no rails, just men with buckets and wheelbarrows and coarse mouths and a half-dug cutting. Only occasionally. And school had become occasionally too. He lied easily. Hid his uniform in the hedgerow and pulled on an old jacket that smelled of rust and grass. Sometimes he took sandwiches, sometimes just a flask. His phone stayed off. He liked it that way. No one really noticed. Or maybe they didn't want to. His parents spoke in soft, exhausted tones. His mother spent hours by Ben's bedside. His father stared out of windows as though something might arrive. The boy moved through the house, like a ghost that they didn't know how to acknowledge. He told himself it didn't matter. But then one day, in early May, came the man by the signal box. Not a ghost. Not exactly. But not someone he recognised either. Tall, coat buttoned to the throat, hat pulled low. He didn't look like the others, but that said, the boy couldn't remember seeing any others at all. "You've made it strong," the man said without turning towards him. "That's not easy. Takes energy." The boy didn't answer. The man stepped forward, boots crunching on gravel. "This place, it's not quite a haunting. No. Not quite a dream. Consider it more like a mirror. You feed it with attention, with wanting." He didn't like the way the man said that. With wanting. You're keeping it alive. And it's pulling from somewhere. It takes energy, but that energy isn't exhaustible, you know. And you can focus it anywhere. You can, at least. Most can't, boy. Oh no. The man turned to him then. His face was pale, not unkind. "Your brother's still breathing, isn't he? You might want to think about energy. Think about where you're putting yours." A freight train sped by. By the time the last vehicle had passed, and the signal arm protecting it had bounced back into position once more, the man was gone. The boy didn't go back to the tracks the next day, nor for some weeks. Ben's breathing was different now. Shallow. Careful. The machine had beeped with what sounded like hesitation. Nurses came and went more quietly. There were no more meetings with specialists. One night, long after midnight, the boy sat on the stairs in the dark and listened to his parents speaking in the kitchen. "Next 12 hours will decide," his mother said, "if there's no change." Her voice faltered. His father said nothing at all. He couldn't be sure, but he thought he had heard a stifled weep. He sat in his room with his ever-filling notebook beside him. He thought of the footpath, the rails, the curve of the track disappearing into mist. He could feel it out there, waiting. He was missing them so badly. He missed those trains. He ached for his position again at the trackside, atop the cutting, among the grasses and the daisies. The house creaked softly. The machines hummed through the wall like a half-heard prayer. He didn't sleep. The next morning he stayed in his room. No one asked why. In the afternoon, someone came to the door with a casserole. He didn't answer. In the evening, Ben stirred once and murmured something the boy couldn't make out. The railway was still there. That much he was sure of. But some days, he walked to the edge of the hedgerow, just to look, just to check, just to see, just to confirm the existence still of his railway. He told himself he wouldn't step through again though. But this last week, as the house martins had begun to leave their nesting in the old allotment shed, his shoes had been wet with dew, and there was mud on the bottom of his jeans again. Another morning, his mother asked where he'd been. Not accusing, just tired. He had no answer ready, just a shrug, half-formed. Ben was still there too, breathing, sleeping, lighter somehow, smaller. He wasn't sure how long had passed now since the stranger had spoken to him. Sometimes he wasn't sure if the stranger had spoken to him at all. But he knew he had stayed all day yesterday, at his favourite spot on the cutting top. He'd been mesmerised once again by the things he loved there. The glamorously named express engines, Windward Islands, Kingfisher, Hare at the Wake, the dirty freight locomotives, the never-ending trains of coal and ore, cement, cattle, the clickety-clack of the rail joints, a hurried, confident sound, completely unlike the bedroom machine, and the sweet, delicious smell of the creosote on the warm, worn wooden sleepers, a welcoming, comforting perfume to him. By summer's end, atop the cutting among the long grasses and the heat of a long August. His favourite perch there was worn to a rounded soil patch by his frequent sitting. And he slept no more. In the smaller room,